In the center of the galaxy, on a world wrapped in silver clouds and rings of light, stood the capital of the Hadron Uniana, powerful and ancient collection of alien civilizations. Known for their unmatched intelligence and deep pursuit of knowledge, towering crystal spires shimmered in violet hues, each one housing some of the most advanced minds the galaxy had ever known. Here, science was not just study. It was belief. Among all their discoveries and secrets, one mystery had consumed their greatest thinkers for over 3,000 years, the Cavrax conjecture. It was not just an equation, it was a legend. Some believed it was left behind by a forgotten civilization that had reached the edge of reality and vanished into the unknown. Others saw it as the key to unlocking the fabric of space itself. What made it special was not just its complexity, but the fact that no one, not a single species among them, had been able to solve it. And still, they tried. Whole alien lifespans, centuries long, were given to working on single lines of its proof. Generations passed in the pursuit. Some gave up. Others lost their sanity. But none ever came close to finishing it. The Cavrax conjecture was said to hold answers to things that still seemed impossible: how to fold space without energy loss, how to stabilize gravity fields, and even how to send thoughts across time. Itself, it had been studied in floating universities above neutron stars, in silent temples carved into moons, and even in sentient libraries grown from crystal trees. It was more than math. It had become something sacred. Only those considered ascendant, meaning evolved far beyond basic thought, were expected to even begin to understand it. The Hadrons guarded the equation with respect, never sharing it freely outside their trusted scientific elite. But times had changed. Recently, the Hadrons had made first contact with a species from a blue planet orbiting a small yellow star. Humans, rough, emotional, unpredictable beings from a place they called Earth. Compared to the Union's long-lived members, humans were short-lived and driven by strange passions. They fought with each other, built fast, broke faster, and thrived in chaos. Many in the Union saw them as curious, sometimes dangerous, but far too young to be taken seriously. Still, politics made strange alliances, and Earth had become a minor member of the interstellar community. In a gesture of openness, the Hadrons began a limited cultural exchange. Most of what they shared with Earth were minor technologies, history, and some high-level scientific puzzles to test compatibility and interest. Among them, quietly placed in a data archive, almost like a footnote, was the Cavrax conjecture. No one truly expected anything from the humans. After all, the Hadron Union had spent thousands of years on this equation. Entire species had evolved their brains just to process small pieces of it. If beings with hive minds, memory crystals, and quantum-enhanced cognition had failed, what chance did short-lived emotion-led humans have? So when the equation was sent to Earth, it was done so without ceremony. A quiet upload to the Interstellar Scientific Archive open to all member species. A formality, nothing more. But the galaxy did not yet understand the human mind. The Cavrax conjecture found its way into a shared research platform open to universities, labs, and independent thinkers across Earth. Most skipped past it. A few attempted it for fun, treating it like a riddle. But deep in the Andes Mountains of South America, in a quiet cabin surrounded by clouds and snow, a woman named Dr. Natalie Reyes opened the file. Was not famous, nor was she part of Earth's leading space programs. In fact, many in her field considered her theories too strange, too nonlinear. She had walked away from academia years ago, preferring the silence of the mountains to the noise of conferences. But Natalie had a gift. She didn't just calculate numbers, she saw them. To her, math was a form of music, and equations were like rhythms in the structure of the universe. When she looked at the Cavrax conjecture, something stirred. Not fear, not confusion, but fascination. It was unlike anything she had seen. It didn't feel like a wall, but a map. Patterns jumped out at her: fractals, spirals, recursive loops. The aliens had approached it with rigid logic, using tools that required thousands of variables. But Natalie looked at it differently. She didn't try to climb it like a mountain. She tried to understand why the mountain was there at all. She began sketching, not on digital screens but on paper, sometimes with chalk on her walls. The equation began to whisper back. It wasn't just numbers. It had personality, flow, even humor. She worked for days without rest. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She simply couldn't let go. Meanwhile, back in the capital of the Cedron Union, no one knew what was happening. To them, the equation sat untouched, among thousands of other unsolved mysteries in their grand data vaults. But something had shifted. Somewhere in a forgotten corner of the stars, a human mind had started to unlock what the greatest minds of the galaxy had failed to see, not through superior power, but through something else entirely: imagination. And while Natalie worked alone under the quiet stars of Earth, far away, the very foundations of galactic understanding were about to be shaken. Cedrons didn't know it yet, but a storm was coming, not of war or rebellion, but of realization. Because for the first time in 3,000 years, the Cavarac's conjecture had found a mind that didn't fear it. It had found a human. Dr. Natalie Reyes lived high in the Andes, where the air was thin and the world below felt like a forgotten memory. Her home was simple, just a stone cabin, shelves lined with old books, and a wide window overlooking misty peaks. Most people had never heard her name. In the academic world, she was a mystery, once called a genius, later dismissed as too strange, too theoretical, too lost in her thoughts. While others published papers and built careers, she vanished from the spotlight, chasing patterns in silence. But Natalie didn't care about fame or titles. She only cared about the way numbers spoke to her. When the Cavarac's conjecture appeared on the open access interspecies research server, she opened it, not expecting much. It was just another unsolved equation, shared from some distant corner of the galaxy. She had seen strange formulas before, but this was different. From the first glance, she felt it wasn't just a problem, it was a message. The Cedrons had spent thousands of years approaching it like a sacred code, using strict logic and high-order calculations. But Natalie didn't follow their path. Her mind worked differently. She didn't walk down the same roads others did. Instead of climbing the equation like a mountain, she danced with it. She began sketching shapes and drawing spirals in the dirt. She listened to music and let it flow through her as she stared at the patterns. Somewhere between the rhythm of Bach and the hum of wind through pine trees, she began to see the structure not as cold symbols, but as living motion. The more she studied, the more familiar it began to feel. Not in the sense of something she had learned, but something deeper, like remembering a dream from childhood. There were sections of the equation that echoed the golden ratio. Others mimicked the double helix of DNA. Fractals bloomed within it, repeating endlessly, yet never the same. It wasn't randomness, it was nature. Somehow, this alien equation held reflections of Earth's own patterns: the spiral of a seashell, the branching of trees, the heartbeats of animals. Natalie ran simulations on her old neural net system, not with brute force, but with gentle pressure testing, how the equation responded to slight shifts in logic, to chaotic variations, to intuitive leaps. Where alien minds had used thousands of variables, she found a few simple ratios that changed everything. She noticed the equation reacted, almost like it was alive. It wasn't static, it evolved with the input, like it was learning alongside her. Every time she pushed it in a new direction, it didn't resist, it adapted. It was then she realized this wasn't just mathematics, it was language. Not in the way humans spoke with words, but a deeper kind of language made of symmetry, motion, recursion. A language that might have been universal long before the Cedrons ever existed. Her heart raced. What if this was not an invention, but a relic? Something left behind by an older intelligence, one that didn't need words or symbols to speak, but encoded its thoughts directly into the structure of reality? The more she worked, the more obsessed she became. Days passed like minutes. Her room filled with paper, digital projections, lines of code looping through strange recursive curves. She slept in short bursts and woke with new ideas. Her dreams were filled with floating patterns and shifting shapes. but she was careful. She didn't share her progress yet. Not with anyone. Natalie had been ignored before, even mocked. If she came forward too soon, they would dismiss her again. She needed to understand the whole thing first. She needed to see where it led. Then something unusual happened. Her simulation didn't just balance, it stabilized into a repeating cycle. Not chaos, not decay. It completed itself. The math looped in a perfect, sustained pattern of solution. She froze. It had never done that before. The moment was quiet. Almost still, as if the world had paused to see what she had found. She rechecked everything. No errors, no shortcuts. Just clarity. She had found a path that no Sadran, no alien mind had ever followed. It wasn't just about intelligence. It was about perspective, where others had followed rules. She had listened to the rhythm, where they had used tools. She had used intuition. She looked out her window at the stars overhead and whispered, "Who left this here?" But a new question formed in her mind. If this was a message, then who was it meant for? Had the Sadrans misunderstood it all along? Was the equation not a problem to solve, but a doorway to something greater? She didn't know yet. But she did know one thing. She had to share it. Not for recognition, but because the equation wanted to be understood. She packaged her solution with care, adding notes, visualizations, and even music overlays. She sent it quietly through the same interspecies research platform it had come from, addressed not to a person, but to the shared galactic archive. Then she waited across the stars, on cold moons and glowing data clouds. The equation stirred. Once more, but this time something was different. A new voice had joined the conversation. A voice from a small blue planet. It's an outsider. A human, despite warnings from Earth's top scientists and the whispers of doubt that filled academic halls. Dr. Natalie Reyes made a bold choice. She uploaded her complete solution to the Cavrax conjecture into the Interstellar Research Archive, a vast digital library accessible to many species across the galaxy. To the human academic elite, her actions seemed reckless. How could a lone human, barely recognized on her own planet, dare challenge thousands of years of alien knowledge? Yet Natalie's conviction was unshaken. She believed in what she had discovered. The data traveled silently through the stars, crossing light years in moments, until it arrived at the doorstep of the Order of Kavraxa, revered institution unlike any other. This was no ordinary university. It was a floating monastery carved from rare crystal minerals, orbiting a majestic gas giant with swirling storms and colorful clouds. The order had stood for a millennium, guarding the legacy of the Cavrax conjecture and protecting its secrets from misuse. The High Theoremaster, Zir Valen, a stern and respected figure with shimmering silver scales and eyes that seemed to pierce through time itself, was the gatekeeper of this sacred knowledge. When the Order's systems first flagged Natalie's submission, Zir barely gave it more than a glance. To him, the solution was mere noising, incoherent jumble of logic from a species not advanced enough to grasp even the basics of the equation. He dismissed it quickly, convinced that centuries of Sadran study had already ruled out any shortcut or breakthrough. But in the shadow of the monastery's great halls, young prodigy Silith watched. She was nothing like the older masters, curious, restless, and eager to challenge tradition. Where others saw dismissal, she saw a puzzle begging to be tested. Secretly, she fed Natalie's method into the Order's most advanced quantum simulators. As the programs processed, something extraordinary happened. The numbers began to shift. Complex variables that once resisted resolution now folded smoothly into one another. Equations that had twisted and looped endlessly before now formed elegant patterns. Slowly, the chaotic maze of the Cavrax conjecture transformed into a clear, patha-complete proof that fit together like the pieces of a cosmic puzzle. Sileth could hardly believe her eyes. She ran the simulations again and again, double-checked the algorithms, and even consulted ancient texts, but nothing could explain the results except one truth. The conjecture was solved. When she brought her findings to Zir, his reaction was disbelief mixed with reluctant respect. The Order was stunned. How could a human, a species with no enhancements, no genetic modifications, and so little understanding of the Union's deep sciences, have achieved what their brightest minds had failed to do? The answer seemed to lie not just in Natalie's calculations, but in the way she thought, intuitive, playful, and unbound by rigid tradition. The revelation sent waves through the galaxy. Immediately, the newly unlocked solutions triggered simulations that began to reveal technologies once thought to be the realm of myths. Gravimetric echoes, delicate fluctuations in gravitational fields, could now be detected and manipulated in real time, promising instantaneous communication. Across the stars, spatial resonance stabilization techniques emerged, hinting at the ability to safely warp space without destructive side effects. Even more astonishing were glimpses into alternate dimensions, tiny windows that suggested parallel realities might be accessible. The implications were overwhelming. The Sadrons, long confident in their intellectual superiority, now faced a humbling truth. A human mind had cracked the key to the universe's hidden mechanics. Natalie Reyes, once considered an outsider, was hailed in secret as a revolutionary, yet the galaxy held its breath. Would this discovery bring unity and progress, or would fear of the unknown lead to conflict? For now, the Order of Kavrax prepared to share the news, while the stars themselves seemed to wait for humanity's next move. The news of Natalie Reyes's breakthrough spread quickly through the Sadron Union, but it did not bring the calm and excitement one might expect. Instead, it ignited a fierce storm within the walls of the Sedron High Council, a group of the galaxy's most powerful and oldest minds. The council chambers, floating in orbit above the capital's gleaming towers, became a place of heated debate. Some members were firm in their belief that the solution could not be true. It had to be a trick, a glitch in the data, or perhaps a subtle manipulation by humans who they saw as reckless and unpredictable. After all, the Kavrax conjecture had resisted even the greatest minds for thousands of years. How could a species barely emerging into space claim to have solved it overnight? Others argued from a different angle, worried that the breakthrough was proof of something far more dangerous, that human thought was dangerously unorthodox, free from the careful logic and tradition that had kept advanced science safe for millennia. To them, humans were wild cards, unpredictable and emotionally driven, without the slow, careful evolution of knowledge that alien species followed. If humans could solve such a complex problem so suddenly, what else might they unlock before anyone could understand or control it? The council debated endlessly, voices rising and falling like storms, a mix of fear, pride, and doubt filling the air. Meanwhile, Natalie herself had been summoned to the Sedron capital. The ship carrying her through the vastness of space was silent and cold, and though she expected pride or celebration, she instead felt confusion and a strange tension she could not explain. When she arrived, the Sadrons studied her with curious, eye-sentient, wise but wary. To them, Natalie was a paradox. How could a species with such brief lifespans, chaotic histories, and impulsive behavior unlock a truth that had eluded their brightest minds for so long? Their expressions showed wonder and suspicion. As she walked through the halls of the grand capital, Natalie sensed the weight of their judgment, like she was an unknown element disrupting a carefully balanced system. In a gathering unlike any she had imagined, she faced the council. Ancient philosopher, his voice deep and calm, spoke words that echoed through the chamber. They do not ascend slowly, they leap. The room fell silent as the weight of his statement settled over everyone. It was not just about solving equations or proving theorems. It was about understanding a new kind of intelligence, one that moved differently through the universe, breaking old rules and creating new paths. The council was forced to reconsider their assumptions, but the question remained: would they embrace this leap or fear it? As the debate continued, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how the Sadrons would face the new reality brought by a human who had changed everything.